Okay, welcome to round number 3. Number 2, I have to get lower I think, revealed a problem with my wide angle lens. It covered up the microphone, so you could see me move around, but there's no sound, so maybe I'll just do commentary on top of that one. Okay, I'm glad I didn't throw it away. So I have to make do without a wide angle lens, which makes me have to be a little tighter if I'm going to try to at least stay in focus, in view even. But I'm going to see about an external microphone, shotgun microphone, so I can move around, or I mean a wireless, I suppose. I don't know. It's best not to be encumbered, and so something that can try to isolate my sound going into this. If you have suggestions, you can let me know. Okay, until then, I'll just have to make do with the microphone on the phone and just try to enhance it somehow. All right. But I'm in nature. I'm out in the countryside, and there's noises of the countryside, which is animals, my chimes, but also like yard work, and there's a road back there, so things will just come around. So this is life as it's happening, making space to be able to share this. So thank you. All right. The main goal in what this channel will be about is empowerment for self-healing, and which is a perspective. There's a way to approach just anything. There are many ways to approach anything, and there's some particularly effective ones. And they transcend pretty much most boundaries, because, well, anyone could create a boundary, but they're so applicable, so generally applicable, like take a breath. No one can be offended by just take a breath, and everyone can benefit from just taking a breath, whatever the circumstance. So this approach to health is one of those kind of truisms, I'd say. How it applies to you is entirely individual, and that's actually what the approach is about. And so what I'm sharing with you is the way that is moving through me, or the way that I'm tapping into that capacity. What's calling to my body, and this is also part of the process, is finding the method that you resonate with, that seems to apply to you, and then you create your own. You have to create your own basis for understanding what's happening, and that's part of the journey, and it's entirely individual, because no one has the experience of another. We can approximate, but only we know what's truly going on. But we may be bewildered by what that is and not able to understand it, and we may never understand it, and no one may ever understand it. Maybe it's transdimensional. It could be anything. It's all up for grabs, as far as I'm concerned. But fundamentally, as you approach, well, anything with a grounded connection to whatever it is, then you can just make better decisions at the very least. But also you give it the opportunity to be potent if that's what it's going to be. So this is kind of like I'm giving permission in a way to have your exploration, because I think that this certainly was the case for me when I started my journey, is that it was scary. And I didn't know. I might make things worse, and it's very possible that by doing anything you're going to make something worse. Like, it's very possible. So again, this is part of the process, though, is to be attuned to what you're experiencing as it's happening. Don't throw energy, don't leap before you've looked, so to speak, but looking actually is more than that. It's looking over, and it's feeling, and it's kind of a deep sense of connected knowing that can only happen when there's direct experience. And then there can be a determination, all right, what does this offer? What does this mean? And then you go, you're better informed at the very least. It could be that at the end of the day, or the multi-year process, whatever it is to you, because this is all just a big journey. Once you're done healing this, you'll go on to healing something else probably. But it's all leading you towards something. Um, if you can approach it from this kind of perspective and other perspectives that can be a bit more empowering. So the process of health should actually be a full systemic health, whatever it is, and the things that activate more of your being are going to, I'll say, are going to be more healthful, because they're offering more at the same time, let's say. But even like taking a breath, like so much can be compressed into that. So this modality is based on contact improv dance. So I'll get into contact improv if you don't know what that means at another time, or provide links to find out more for yourself and where you live. But I apply the principles of contact improv to a self-healing kind of into techniques that can really permit you to do some intense self-body work that only you could provide. Like, no one else could do it, and it would be impossible for anyone else to duplicate it, and it would be much more like directly impactful. Like you would, and you can approach it. You can do it whenever you want because you always have access to it, as opposed to a therapist or a masseur or whatever. And I have nothing bad to say about any of that. If it feels right to have someone like guide the process and give an external assessment, great, that's good, do it. But even between those sessions, doing this kind of self-maintenance, self-care, self-love, but it's also like scanning the system at a certain level, and you'll be much more attuned to injuries, if they're stucknesses, stickiness in the body where energy isn't able to move efficiently, let's say, or quickly, and then injuries can happen when there's a weakness. So not only is it a general maintenance approach, but it is also you can do acute almost feels like microsurgery. I was trying to think, is there a less dramatic way to say it? But that's how it kind of feels. Like I can really get down to the nuance and control how it feels to me, so that in the process of the healing, imagine like a deep tissue, someone's pushing down on a knot in your muscles. At some point your muscles has to let go, but there can be a lot before that happens, and I think it could be much more gentle than that. I think you can allow yourself to relax into it, but you have to also simultaneously feel confident that you're not going to make the injury worse. So you have to approach that whole area with a lot more connectedness. When you can, then you're able to bring more life to that area at the very least, awareness at the very least, and more life. Like that'll probably be invariably an outcome, and that can never be bad. Okay, so that was a big spiel to start. Let's the context, and I'm gonna start with, I've been starting with the ball, and I've been approaching oh boy, it's gonna be hard to get everything in focus. I'll do my best. Water. Yoga balls offer a support over a broad area of the body. There's bigger balls. The less air there is, the more it flattens out, so the broader the area, so you can have a lot of control, although not kind of in the moment. it'd be nice to be able to like quickly change this to whatever the need might be. All right, we'll wait for the Bluetooth enabled yoga ball. And this will generally, getting into this kind of position will generally just find some places of, oh yeah, I could use more like releasing right there. So my arm, my shoulder, I can't quite localize where the injury is, but it's been injured somehow, or it's painful in certain positions when I am exerting energy, which could be just lifting my arm in a certain position. It feels like I've been getting a greater range of motion, and it could be that this really was a muscle tear and that it's healing, and it would have done it without me. It could also be that every time I've done one of these sessions, kind of a self therapy session, I come away feeling a bit more expansive. So that has me feeling like this is a net positive to do this. And even if it weren't just about focusing on a kind of direction of the potential of this technique that I'm kind of applying in this more directed way to this injury. That was a long, twisty one. I twisted myself out of it. So right about there, I can feel my injury is triggered, and it kind of feels like it's up on my shoulder, but down in my arm sometimes I can get it too. So I wonder what's, maybe it's a fascial thing. There's some damage in, I guess that's connective tissue. And so even if I relax my arm, I can, when it's in certain positions, just the weight of it can cause a slight triggering. My general observation is the depth of whatever the session has been will reveal itself in the breath when I come out of it. And it's satisfying to have a good deep breath right afterwards. You feel like you actually really have opened up just in that little bit of, in those few moments. So I'm just rolling around in a general way that I've had experience moving around on the balls, so that's part of the journey, is learning what is possible. I'm just positioning my weight in such a way that it's causing my arm to stretch out, which previously I think this would have hurt. So I think it is getting better. Starting with the yoga ball allows the muscles to have a more general opening. So there's more of it's support along a bigger area. And it's like it's massaging its way in, it's kneading the dough towards the center. The heart, maybe there's a hard center. It's like a jar of almond butter or peanut butter where the oil has come up to the top, and you have to with whatever you've got to stir it around, and it gets harder and harder towards the bottom. But if you don't do that, it gets harder and it starts, this is a perfect analogy, it crusts at the bottom, right? And it's almost impossible to get out. And when you do, it's going, wow. So I'm working my way in. One of the one of the approaches in that, awarenesses of it, is to not inflame the injury as you're doing it, because that will cause it to contract. Some part of you will then contract, and that contraction, for one, makes the healing part right there just, it's not going to happen at that moment, because it can't when it's contracted. You can tire it into contraction, but it's protecting something. So better to be gentle with it and allow it to open at its own pace. That's the idea behind those miracle balls. Those two little balls, if you've ever been into like a Barnes & Noble. And I got it many years ago, but I keep seeing them, so they're perennial. And these two little balls, and you can inflate them to your desired hardness, softness, and then you position them and let yourself just relax for a period of time. So it has a component of tiring the muscle, so that is there, but it's done in a broader application, and so the body isn't quickly reacting because it's presupposing that it is weak in that location, and it's protecting it. It's doing what it's supposed to do. That's cool. So by using consciousness, our own consciousness, we can go into our body and we can help it heal. But the first rule is be aware enough that, or with the awareness is, I guess, is whatever we do, our goal is to not inflame it, which might mean just, it's time to call it quits and try again later. So I'm positioning myself on this foam roller. The foam roller has a smaller circumference, so the point of contact is smaller and it's stiffer, so it's much more focused than the balance ball. And because it's this arm, I'm gonna like apply I'm gonna apply a kind of I don't have you're with me on this journey as I am developing this whole thing, including the vocabulary, so in terms of how to speak about certain things. So there's the pauses for how do I talk about something. Traction is when you're able to be supported and you're able to just release. So this is some kind of bracing, like a bracing, because when I brace, because then there's like the active resistance, but it can be, okay, so active resistance, like I'm using my hips to move my legs. So there is a bit of, there's action in a part of my body, but it feels like it's not tensing muscles here. Oh yeah, so there's, don't inflame this, don't make the situation worse, don't engage it to where you feel pain. Back off from the pain, so that will be the indicator. So our goal is to not trigger a pain awareness or a pain reaction. It might happen, okay, just back off where you don't feel the pain and just relax for a little bit there, okay, and then start again. So by I'm bracing my shoulder underneath or on the side of this foam roller, and it's supporting my neck in this kind of spiral position, which is cool. My neck is spiraling to my shoulder and the whole thing is being supported here, so that's really nice. It gives you a kind of three-dimensional stretch. There's just no other way to get, there's other ways to get there, but to do it to yourself like this is. And then you can lift up, and so my goal is to find a place where I'm starting to feel triggered, because I want to apply this method to this healing, so I'm guiding it towards that spot. Otherwise I would just do this as a general roll around rejuvenating practice. So in the specific way, then I'm focusing here. So that's how I'm approaching this. So there's a bit of being active with my hips, moving my leg over, but then at a certain point now it's passive again because I can just let myself relax here. And then in the yoga way, just take a breath here. And just allow if any gentle expansion is there to have will occur. If it's not taxing you to be in a position, then those are good spots to just take a pause and see what else that can just naturally lead towards. So now what I'm doing now is not going to do, but what I'm finding myself wanting to do is continue this motion and move with my knee and kind of guiding my hips, and it's giving a deeper twist in my spine. I've brought up my arm because I already know that I can't extend it that much, so I'm gonna keep it pulled in at first and then slowly find where the range is. And I'm giving some okay, that was a bigger drop, but when you're in certain balance points, it's easy to, with very little energy, give a bit of rocking, and it feels soothing to the body. It's particularly yummy to do this with a partner and to feel their gentle, their rhythmic movement and how that can just move through your body. Okay, so I'm starting to feel a little tired, so I'm gonna pull out the way I came in, gentle. I'm gonna do this action here. Again, I'm being active in one part. I'm lifting up. I'm doing this like, what's this called? Like the fish or something. And I'm using it to allow myself to have more weight come down towards my shoulder, so I can just kind of apply more pressure there. So I am exerting some energy here. I don't feel like it's taxing, and then I can stop when I want. So as long as the part that I'm focusing on is able to relax and not have to be engaged in the support of whatever that spot is, then because here we go, I found a spot right. Oh, I can feel a nerve shoot down on that one. So you'll know when you find it. But if I go a little further, it's okay, a little more. So I'm going to go back. Come down, roll it down a little bit, pull my arm in. I can feel it's on the edge of like, well, it's too much. So go back to the last place where you just felt like you could just completely relax. Okay, I'm unwinding in a way that's being gentle to the arm. Trying not to put weight on it when it's extended. There is the fuller breath. Okay, good, excellent. And then I like to follow it up with, we'll get even more specific with this ball. And so there's different hardnesses of balls. This is a pretty squishy one, but it's not an inflatable ball, so it's harder than the inflatable balls can get. And it's also smaller. I guess you can get a very small inflatable ball. I've seen those. Whatever. So you can use a tennis ball, although that tends to be a bit harder. So, it is nice to have something that gives a bit. Okay. So I guess I'll go to the place where I was feeling that trigger before, and I'm going to see if I can get just really specific on that spot and just start to work my way in, and maybe I need to take off my shirt to do this so I'm not sliding around. I'm I'm on, oh, I know what I could do. Okay, I can't do it now. But okay, I'm on my bed, and it means that I can't get a solid point of contact, but I should just bring a plank over. What plank could I use? What's hard enough? That I don't know what I'd use right now. So it's gonna sink a little bit, but I think it'll still be effective. Yeah, oh yeah, just harder to see. Oh, okay. So yeah, that's pretty intense. It's like definitely like having thumbs being pushed into you. Um, so I'm kind of not hanging on any spot because I want to get to the top of the chain, as it were. Let's say where I'm not feeling a tenseness immediately arise. I don't need to be challenging. That's part of this therapeutic approach. Is that you're not trying to challenge your body. Uh, you're you're trying to meet it where it is, and there are ways to approach meeting it where it is to come up with a way to engage it while not making it worse, because that's always the potential. I mean, I think if you're connected to the process, then it's less likely. I'm not trying to be negative about it, but it's always, anything's possible. So I don't make absolutes except that. Oh, okay. Okay, here's a spot. So it almost feels like I'm. So just with the weight of my arm reaching out, if I come down, okay, so I'm going to come down, and it feels less. So it's okay. So there's an approach to this, which another technique then in this approach is you have so many ways that you can structure the exploration. Maybe structure is not the right word, but here's what's happening. I've found a position, and so now I'll leave my body. It was my feet and my hips for the most part, moving my upper body around, my arms being just passive. Now I'm going to keep my body stationary, and I'm going to move my arm around because I'm on a place that's triggering. So let's just but it's at the edge of triggering. So now let's just see what else being in this spot. Let's just move other things around. See what else emerges, because the muscle is three-dimensional. It moves around, and so this is like stirring up the peanut butter. Stir the peanut butter, almond butter. I hope I'm eating the almond butter, the almonds from. No, I don't want to eat the stuff that's been extracted from milk, because I mean you want to have healthful almonds, but almonds are not a great sustainable crop, and it's difficult to justify supporting the industry given its impact in California. There's an aside, but almond butter. That might make me bougie. Okay, so here is a very triggering spot. So one thing I'm looking for is, where can I find a place where it goes from 0 to 75 or above, like immediately. And that's usually imagine a hillside, a grade, like the face of a hill, the gradient, and it's like abrupt, like a square wave, or it's does it taper down this way? Is it steep, and then you can feel this kind of I mean, you can imagine that kind of pain response, let's say, happening. And so that could be indicative of something. If you have an immediate right away, it's at 100, then back away. Maybe you have a fracture. Maybe you have a spinal disc compression, and this is not where you need to be. So that's a very clear indication from the body when you get that kind of response. Part of this approach is to go slowly enough that you can, that ideally it's not an all or nothing, like you're not immediately going to like snap your arm off by doing something. Ideally, it's another part of this approach. But also that the gradient is more of a, there's more to it, and so you can feel along the way when it's become too much. That's where the slowness helps. And being like isolating, so I'm stopping my body and moving the arm around, so like I'm isolating the body and or isolating this location, and then I'm alternating moving my body around this location, but it's in that spot that I'm feeling like there's a reaction. So now I've just shifted where I am around my shoulder, because I think, at a certain point you'll feel like, okay, I'm good there. Maybe it starts to feel painful, just the action of it is starting to feel painful, but not the muscle that it was engaging, and that's a good indication, like, all right, move on. So now we're kneading the dough, we're working our way upwards, or upwards, we're moving just along the surface, and applying this approach. And again, I'm being hyper specific and localized, let's say, because I'm approaching this from a healing, a therapy session perspective. Okay, then I have access to, like I did with the roller, I can lift up my hips, and that brings more weight down towards the point of contact. And then I'm also pushing in a different angle too. Or it's this way, it's hitting this way on my body in a different way. And so then I'm able to, just massage those, rolling out with the rolling pin, and I have a more easy access into whatever, at least engaging the whole process, because then I'm relaxing, at least my body's relaxing. And that's when it becomes much more clear when an injury is present, because we're not compensating in some way, unconsciously. Okay, here's a spot that I feel a bit of triggering. So this is different than it was on my shoulder. This is down my back. So I went to a kind of more general approach. I just started moving down my body. I'm just being organic and exploratory. As I said at the start, that this can be approached as, and I keep reiterating how I'm approaching it right now, but this can be approached both specifically and then broadly. And oh no, what I said before that was that no matter how I'm approaching it, my whole body's going to benefit. It'll bring greater calm and energy to some parts of my body, so that's a net positive. And more than likely, you're going to move around and just explore the things while you're at it. So that's entirely possible right now. And along the way, if it's a therapeutic way and you start to meander, you might find other places where this is triggering, whatever it is. And so then you have greater understanding, oh, so maybe there's multiple things happening that just have, collided to make things worse there. Maybe it was already weak and then something else happened from a different direction, utilizing the same muscles, but it looks different on the outside. I mean, there's any possibility. I think these things are cumulative, and the wear on our bodies as we experience this life is just cumulative. And I think there's no getting around it on some level. So here's another way that I can have a so I can send more energy down on this spot, and already I can keep that ball much better than I could when I first started. Oh, okay, so I feel it there as I'm extending my arm. So I'll stop. Oh. So now I found a spot that was triggering, and I'm just kind of rolling down the energy, rolling it down, kind of dissipate it. Now I'm shifting my body weight, and there's more weight on some side. I'm twisting over apparently. Okay, so now my body is very efficiently kind of restrained, and so any movement I do right now is coming from my arm. So where can I move from a place of strength and then start to feel that gradient? Okay, right about here. Actually, I'm gonna stop using the ball. Okay, this position. Oh, this is good. So the way that I'm balanced, imagine it like a seesaw, which I never see anymore in playgrounds. And I've been to playgrounds all across the United States now with my boy, in other countries as well. They're very rare, and never on those newfangled playgrounds. Okay, but I'm able to use that point of balance to with very little energy maintain a position, and I can further do balancing by positioning my body in such ways that then there's correcting happening, and then it's even very little that I have to do to maintain it. And so my whole body now is able to relax and be part of this this releasing movement, and it's being focalized into this spot, or rather what I'm most aware of, because it's a system-wide thing. So what I'm most aware of is this injury. So now I'm moving, because I can very effectively, with very little energy, and very quickly, if I need to, respond with, like, I could very quickly move off of an injury if it came about. But I have very fine control over how weight is being applied to my shoulder. And so then I'm creating like these anchoring points, I guess, using the bed this time as an anchoring point. And then I guess I'm moving my body around, or just allowing gravity itself and the motion. Okay, I'm gonna back off. Find where it's not, where I'm riding that gradient around the edge, so I can kind of step off of it. The deeper breath. So you can't be disappointed. Well, you can be disappointed, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't an effective ride if you don't get the deeper breath, and it's so satisfying when you do. Okay, I think that's good for now. I'm gonna stop. Thanks for being on this ride.